Hello, everybody. Welcome back to yet another incredible, we are excited today. We are excited today because not only are me and Caroline going to learn more about something that we've always wanted to learn more about, but if you guys have never heard of NLP, you are in for a real treat. So Caroline and I wanted to, hey, how's it going over there? How's it going, East Coast?
East Coast is going fine. It's Falmer here, so it's fall and summer mixed. So we're enjoying any of the seasons we wake up to. You?
Well, it's good. It's good. It's, you know what? It's beautiful British Columbia, right? People are like, oh, it rains here. And I'm like, that's why it's beautiful. That's why it's so we're on the verge of a few sky tears today. But it's good. It's good. I'm excited because, as you know, I love personal growth and you love personal development. And I believe that what Alan's going to share today is very powerful. We had a great conversation and he told me an amazing story that I'm hoping he's going to share today about this fireman. And anyways, I'm going to leave that aside a little bit. We're going to talk about, when I hear his story, it reminds me of so many times when you might need something, you might feel like you need some personal development or something's not kind of quite right. And I've had this happen. I've literally said, when a book flies out at you, I've looked at my bookshelf and I know that you have many, and a book kind of gleams, or there's something when I'm scrolling through, social media and I'll see like someone's picture. It could even be someone's picture. Honestly, that's how I met Alan. It was like, there was just something about him that made me reach out to him. Have you ever had that happen?
Yes, quite often, actually. That's kind of like how I live my life, make my decisions, and which I was criticized when I was in corporate because I made huge decisions that were involving huge finances. And I was asked what was my reasoning. And I was like, it's my gut. It doesn't fly in corporate, but I have to say they were all successful. No, I do have that quite often. And I think one of the things is also in our days, there's so many amazing tools out there. So, sometimes they will actually flash at you and you don't even realize it and you just let it pass and you go on to the next thing because we're all busy and we're all, the era of the scrolling. So it's like scroll next. But what I like about the interview that we'll have today is that, it's a method, I should say. It's a science that I've heard quite a few times the title, but I don't know exactly what it is. And I think it's good to educate yourself. And it's funny because as a self-development, I don't want to say junkie, but almost like you just said, sometimes I feel like I know a lot, and every single time we have a new interviewee, I'm like, wow, I so don't know. But it's good to educate yourself and know what different therapies or different methods or different, whatever you want to call them, does for you, because it actually, it can help you choose something that will really benefit you. So I'm excited about today's interview as well. But you, Deb, when is the last time that, aside from yesterday, when is the last time that something spoke at you and was like, do this? Because I know that's how you function.
I do. And you know what? I'm going to touche that you brought up. I really, I've been doing this for like 30 years, kind of trying to, listening to my gut. And honestly, I've been made fun of lots. And so I'm used to that part of it. But I have to say, it seems that time's really sped up since all of a sudden this whole online and our world's changed and all of this information has come flying at us, and mental health and personal health and self-care and keep your business alive and help other people and be kind and, go through all these emotions. I feel like it's really shifted me out of being able to be as calm and making good decisions. And because there's so much coming at me, I think like you, sometimes it's hard to stop and explore because there are so many modalities now, and things that I used to do before were like meditation and massage. That's my go-to. That's like my meat and potatoes, right? Of my, stability. And then there's new things that come by, and I'm as guilty as anyone else about not digging under the surface and finding out more, that which is why I'm glad I kind of followed my gut. And me and Alan met, I believe, on Facebook. I don't even know who connected us or whatever. And I'm like having that conversation, and we kind of went back and forth quite a bit on even trying to get together. And I know when that happens, that there's a right timing. When I'm trying to get together with someone and it's not working, I actually say to the person, let's keep trying, because clearly we're supposed to meet, but there's a reason that the timing's not working. And they might think I'm a nut job or whatever, but
what's the trick for that?
What's
Just
the
let
word?
me know, because I'll use it. Sorry, Deborah, I don't know why we're having a hard time connecting today.
Sorry. We're not meant to. So I'm excited to learn more also about what Alan said. And I think that in terms of my life, I and gut feelings and going with things like that, you have to hang out with people that understand that language, because when you make those kind of decisions, it's like, I had a conversation this morning very early on with somebody, and I'm like, I just got this weird feeling and I can't shake it. They're like, go with that. And I'm like, I know, right? I know, go with that. And it just has to do with the decision. It's nothing, it's not life-changing, right? It's not life-changing, but it's just like even taking those little, should I take this course? It's really about taking a course. And I'm like, I don't know, I got this funny feeling. And they're like, go with that, right? Anyways, I don't want to go take up too much time. I really want to get into what Alan has to say, but I think it's important to listen. And then for me, take the time to explore. Take the time to explore and make the time to explore. And good things can happen when you do that, right? Kind of like True That Media. So anyways, let's talk to the expert, because one of the things that I love about Alan is how his life has unfolded due to, something that he started. I don't want to tell his story, but it kind of, when I listen to how it unfolds and unfolds and unfolds and unfolds, it's like his own evolution into helping other people. And I'm looking forward to hearing more from Alan today. So without any further ado, Alan, thank you for coming onto the show and being part of True That Media. And if you wouldn't mind kind of, introducing yourself and letting us know about what it is that me and Caroline are talking here about personal growth and being an amazing author and how that's turned into helping people with NLP.
Well, thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Caroline, for having me today. It's an honor to share this time with you. And you know what? When you were talking about a lot of things, and I should have been taking notes. There's so many things that are on the same line for me. It's kind of like my partner gets messages to, we're going to be doing this, and I just look up and okay, we're going to, because there was a long time I didn't listen. I didn't listen to what was going on. So I was really way behind in a lot of things. But now, you know what? I'm much more open, and I listen, because there are a lot of books that jump off the shelves. There are a lot of things that happen in life. And if you can just listen to your intuition, you never know where your path is going to lead, because my path, I never seen this future I have right now in my path. And yeah, it's amazing when you can actually listen.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the first book that you wrote?
You know what? That first book we wrote, it's kind of like caused some major things, and I never actually seen myself as an author. I'll be honest with you. When I went to school for social service worker, I had to read books and massive amount of homework. It was like reading salt or sand in your eyes dry, and oh my God, it was like oh yeah, it was terrible. So I really didn't want to read anymore. I'm more of a listener. But my partner had said to me, and this is the story of how this book is created. It's kind of funny. My partner had said she wanted to write a book. A psychic said she was going to write a book. Okay. So some time passes, and I'm on a much more trying to learn things. And I've been listening to the great Bob Proctor for years. I can virtually, listen to his CDs and tell you his next words. And an opportunity arises where Bob Proctor is going to be in Toronto. And I hear this, Bob Proctor in Toronto, well, we got to go. We have to go. So my partner and I go down there. It's a 3-day event, and we get there. And on the first day, the person running the event, he says, I guess it was halfway through the day, I help people write books. And there's three, right? My partner wants to write a book. She's going to write a book. And this man up on stage is saying, go to the back, pay, and I'll help you write a book. So guess, you know what? I jump out of, yes, I did it. I just jumped out of my seat, went to the back, signed us up, actually signed her up to write a book, came back. I said, here, you're in, you're going to write a book. She's in tears. She's excited, happy. And the weekend goes on, we see Bob Proctor and everything's great, right? So a couple days later, she's in panic mode and she looks at me and says, you got to help me. I didn't really have anything to say. I didn't really want to. I said, sure, no problem. I'll help you write this book. So I help her write this book, and she tells a very, very traumatic story in the beginning of the book, and then we're sharing tools, lots of information to help people. And then she says, well, you're gonna put something in the book personally? And so I said, well, yeah, I could tell my story. Like, up to that point in time, I was 55 years old, 54 years old, and I had not really spoke very much about what had happened to me. And so she says, well, you could share that. So I was in a good spot. I write in the book, this is what happened to me at 10 years old. I was raped when I went into a church. By 16, I was so lost, I put a gun in my mouth, pulled the trigger, and lived another 12 years in anger. And then by 27, you get that point. Well, that was my point, where either you do something different, or you're going to end up in jail, you're going to end up dead or unhappy. And so I just wrote that very nonchalantly in the book. And that book caused my partner and I, we wrote it to help people how to transform your life, the magic within, how to transform your life. We picked the magic within because we know and believe everything comes from within. If you can't be happy inside, it doesn't matter what's happening outside, you're still not going to be happy. But if you can be happy inside, you're going to be happy outside. And you know what? I know when I went to school, I was on unemployment. I had teenage kids living with me. I had no money. It was the biggest struggle of all, but it was actually the most happiest time I've been with those teenagers. Yes, I said that. It was the happiest time with living with teenagers. It was. But that book, it transformed our lives, because suddenly we're getting phone calls from people and they're asking us for help. I don't even have a consent form. I don't even have a confidentiality form. I don't have anything. We don't know anything about business. We know how to help people because we've worked in the addictions mental health field for years. But so suddenly we've got to create a company, create a business from a book. And that was me listening to my partner. And you know what? I'll be honest, I didn't listen very much till I started down the path. And even the story of how I ended up going to school is because I started to listen. And it's amazing what happened to us because of that book.
So one of my first questions would actually be to your partner. How can you get a partner to listen this much? So we're going to bring her on the next podcast because that is intriguing in itself. So congratulations for you to really, being attentive and really helping her go through her stuff. But clearly it brought you something as well. It was both of your paths to follow. But tell me a bit, like, after the magic within, after you created your company, and I kind of know the feeling what it is to start with a book and then like it all like it comes down on you. There's a company and then we need to create a coaching program and this and that. What kept driving you to do that? Because you could have stopped at the book as well, but the fact that you kept going, there's a drive in you that there's clearly something you believe in that you want to share that is bigger than the book. So what was that thing for you?
You know what, for us, that book was, we had no plan of the company. We didn't forward think. We wrote the book specifically because my partner and I want to help people. And we found these amazing tricks to help people, these amazing tools to reframing things. And we found NLP, like Cindy, again, listening to Cindy, I can do that. NLP. So we sign up for an NLP course. We have a few clients working, and the funniest thing was when I was doing the NLP interaction, I had a crisis call from somebody and they wanted to get help for their son, and I was learning NLP and doing crisis calls all day for whole weeks and even in training. But we want to make a difference. We want to help people. Like, you know what, when I went through all of that darkness and I emerged into the light, I would have loved somebody coming up with me with a tool like NLP, and it's called MER, mental emotional release technique, and releasing all of that anger, sadness, fear, hurt for that traumatic event. And I wouldn't have wasted or lost 17 years of my life. Like, you know, the first 6 years I was a kid living in terror because I had lied to my parents. I never told them. I never said what was going to happen because, you know what, when I went into that church, that person said, "You're bad, you need to be punished." He punished me. And when I left running, and I thought, I don't want to be punished by my parents. So I kept that secret, and that secret stayed with me till I was 50 years old. Like, I never told those words out loud. So really, I had that in. And the funniest part, and yes, I can laugh about it because I'm grateful that it happened, because it put me on a path to seeing the world differently, and I've helped a lot of people. But I remember the day that I actually said it out loud accidentally. I was lecturing to the recovery where I worked, the addictions recovery program I worked, and I was lecturing on abuse, and I looked up and I said, well, I know what it's like to be physically abused, mentally abused, emotionally abused, and sexually abused. And when I said it, it was like, oh my God, I could today, you know, we're talking like over 10, 12 years ago, I said that, I could still feel the redness and the fear come over me. It was like I was 10 years old again. And you're 50 years old, you're 6 foot, 200 pounds, pretty intimidating. And it was like being that 10-year-old kid again. I had to turn to the board to compose myself. And then I said, you know what, no, I'm not falling into that old behavior. And I turned around and continued with the lecture. And it's kind of like Deborah said, sometimes the book falls off the shelf and it's time for you to read it. And that whole subject just flowed out that one day. And since then, I'm openly talked about it many times with people, and it's helped many people. And you know what? It's kind of like the two-edged sword. When I said it on Facebook, I wrote another book specifically about what happened. Some men said, well, why would you say that out loud? And you know what? A lot of people said, well, thank you for being brave. And you can see the difference in the both attitudes. And for us, we've been on a quest to learn how to help people. And I don't want people losing or being locked into their pain and their darkness. It's why we have a belief trauma, you have to take years to deal with it. But really, we don't have to take that long to deal with anything. You can be traumatized in a minute. Why can't you release trauma in a little bit more than a minute, maybe, but not years?
I think that's a really brilliant statement, what you just made. First of all, thank you for sharing, Ellen. And I think that's a really brilliant statement. And I believe that that has been a concept for a long time. And it's interesting to hear it being talked about in, it doesn't need to be that way anymore. Because I think that's the evolution of healing. You know, it's kind of like we all used to think it had to be meat, potato, and vegetables. And then you learn more about your digestion. And then you know that you shouldn't put those together, or you know, that sugars, you shouldn't eat certain amount. I mean, it's an evolution of learning and evolving, and tapping in and getting that information to you sent at the right time by the right person, hopefully. And I think that we have, and I believe that it's still very much a belief around doing therapy, healing yourself is going to be a long, drawn out experience. And I believe that as someone who's a survivor, is that because it was so big to, you know, so big to me, so big to you, so too big to whoever's listening, because it's such a big thing, and because we kept it a secret for so long, there's this idea that it's going to take as long to heal it. But if you listen to someone like yourself's story, where it happened in early years, and here you are more going towards your elder years, and you've had that gap of time, I believe sometimes people think it's going to take that long to heal because it took that long to come out and say that there was something to heal. You know what I mean? Which is why I'm very fascinated about NLP. I think that, like you said, it's not going to happen in a minute. There's a process that people need to do, and they need to digest and hear and integrate. And I don't think maybe, you know, in 10 or 15 minutes things change, but to be able to now have tools that shorten that projected experience. I'd love to ask you if you could just explain, please, to people that are listening and watching, what is NLP? Where did it come from? I know you've had some great stories and experiences with it yourself, but look, if there's a tool that can help heal you, we know that our outside world is a reflection of what's going on inside, right? So you got challenges in relationships. You might have a challenge with a relationship with yourself. If you keep going from boss to boss to boss to boss to boss, or you can't get past a certain place in your career, or you keep having the same issue, you know what I mean? There's probably a dynamic, you know, we're part of the situation, so we might be part of the solution. So can you tell us a little bit more about NLP in itself?
You know what, NLP it's really hard to explain, but it's really easy to explain as well. Neuro-linguistic programming, it's kind of like, I've got kids, they're teenagers, and the best thing I can tell you is I'm a mechanic, I work on cars, and I can fix anything. They buy a car, and I look at this car, and they ask me to fix it. Well, what I tell them is, I'll get a manual for your car, it'll give me all the secrets, it'll give me the tools, it'll tell me the exact procedure on how to fix it, and it'll be fine, I'll fix your car. Well, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is kind of like having the manual to help your unconscious mind, because that's where everything is. It's in your unconscious mind. It's like the operating system of your laptop. Your conscious mind is Windows. You type something in, and the laptop does it. But the unconscious is where everything is, the hard drives, your beliefs. It's your foundation. It's what makes you operate. Like, if you think about it, you don't think to blink, you don't think to breathe, you don't think to listen or anything. Well, that's your unconscious mind doing that. And imagine having a tool that bypasses the conscious mind, because the conscious mind is all about logic and structure, and this is how it's done. And yes, when we do NLP with people, a lot of times we ask questions in a very specific language and very specific words, and they look at us and they say, really? And we'll have to tell them, don't consciously think about it, just relax, and the first answer that comes to your mind is the correct answer. Even if it doesn't make sense to you logically, it's the correct answer. And NLP is like having the manual for the unconscious mind.
I think that's where I belong, because I will be honest, I've done years of therapy, and like I'm a survivor as well. I tried therapy when I was younger, then stopped, then started again, then stopped. You know, every time there's a milestone in my life, whether it be good or bad, I'm like, okay, time for therapy. I'm gonna try it again now because I'm in a new place. And I played this game with the therapist of like literally, because it's all my logic that is there. I know what I'm saying. I know exactly like what they're gonna answer. I studied psychology as well. So it's really, so now I don't even bother anymore trying talk therapy, because like I said, it's almost a game. Like it took me a while to realize that that's what I was doing, but it is what it is. But now that you say that, I realize it's my logic that analyzes everything and answers everything. And there's just ways, you know, sometimes you want to say something, you want to express a feeling, you want to express a fear. And then at 47, when you hear yourself, you're like, of course, that doesn't make any sense. So I won't say it this way. I will say it this way, because it's the logic that comes in. So I'm actually liking this part of NLP. So, you know, who is the perfect candidate for that? Or like, I'm thinking about the listeners right now. At which point can you turn and decide, I want to do this? And how do you actually start when you're starting from scratch?
You know what? The perfect candidate is anybody that's exactly like you. You've went through, you've done all of these things, but there's still something, right? And like I'll be honest with you. At 27, when I started to change my life, I had to learn how to do it, because I wasn't brave enough, or I wasn't knowledgeable enough or aware enough to go ask for help. So I learned to change the way I think, and then that'll change the way you feel, and that'll change the way you behave. But it was a process of, you know, 2 steps forward, sometimes 10 steps back. Maybe a lot of days it was all backwards and nothing forward. And you know what? I also learned beating yourself up doesn't help. But today, it's kind of like the perfect candidate for NLP is, you know what? Somebody that wants something different. They've tried counseling. I did counseling for years. I counseled people for years, and I heard them re-traumatize themselves every week or every 2 weeks with the same story. And I would be sitting there, and you know, as a counselor, you're supposed to be block and everything, but it was heart-wrenching hearing guys and women say this and not having a tool to really help them. It was kind of like counseling was a desensitization tool. But no, and NLP is, it's, do you want to know the funniest thing I tell people when they want a freedom session, a 3-hour freedom from trauma, and they'll start, well, this happened to me, and you know what? I say, you know what? I don't even need to know what it is. And they look at me like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I don't need to know. That's the great thing about NLP. I don't need to know what trauma you've had. I don't need to know when it happened. As long as you know you know what it is we're working on, it's perfect. It's so non-evasive. Like, I don't need to like, if I was going to an NLP practitioner or master practitioner and they were doing MER on me, I wouldn't have to tell them, well, I was raped at 10 years old. By 16, I put a gun in my mouth because I was so hopeless I couldn't see light. No, don't have to tell them anything. And this is why I love NLP. I have to stop people and say, you know what? I don't need that. Thank you. But I can help you without knowing anything, as long as you know it. You know what we're working on. And that is the most amazing tool that we have. And I can tell you some stories, results from people. It's beyond belief. And it's like Deborah said, and you said, you have to let go of the logic of it and just accept that it works.
That's it's such an interesting concept, right? Because and it's interesting, I've heard that quite a bit lately. So obviously it's something for me to hear about. We know when the story keeps getting played out that things start firing off in the brain, and you can kind of go back into that place and in that patterning, and you see people. It's interesting, like we always see people, but you can see people in their patterns. You can see people sabotage themselves. You can see people, you know, do things over and over again, and you're like, don't they see that? You know, we have our own stuff, and I'm not saying that we sit there and judge, but it's interesting to note. It's interesting to note. And I think it would take someone back. I mean, I know, myself and Caroline, people are gonna think all we do is therapy, but we do. So no, I'm kidding. But it's interesting to, that's a very different approach. And again, I think it's a paradigm shift. It's a paradigm shift for people to understand that it's energy, it's connections that are happening neuronally, and that you can recover quickly and recover differently. I know as someone who's gone into counseling to talk about different things, whether it's, your ex-husband or being a parent and you go in, you tell your story, they give you advice about your story, they try to make you feel better, give you coping skills and techniques about your story. And I'm not saying that's bad, because honestly, I've been healed and helped by many different healers and helpers that come at it at a very different time. I'm very drawn. I mean, I'll talk to you earlier about, I'm very drawn to doing some work with you, because it's a new way to explore healing, right? It's a new way to explore healing. So I love when things come together. For me, when I'm looking at healing, and Caroline, you can chime in as well. We talked about this. What are the different things that we do to make ourselves feel better, and how NLP can be a part of that circle? So meditating, NLP, eating well, aromatherapy. For Caroline, it might be, playing soccer, walking in the forest, doing maybe NLP, eating popcorn. I'm eating carrots and dip. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, we all have our formula. But I think that, hats off to you. The thing that draws me to hearing and experiencing what it is that you do is the word freedom. As a survivor, I'll just talk about myself, because it's all I can talk about. The freedom of having it first come out of your mouth, the freedom of not being alone with your stuff, the freedom, because I think when we have stuff, it blocks and stops us from living fully. Right? That's how I feel.
Yeah, and just a little side note here, Deborah and I started therapy when we were young, because it's actually a social study that we decided we would bring all of our results like now. So it was all for you guys. No, but I'm listening to you, Deb and Alan, and you guys talk about freedom. And the thing that I want to, jump in and say, just because it feels like I need to say it, people need to hear that. We all have different ideas and definitions of freedom. I remember, at some point, just being able to spend a day without anxiety in my life, I was like, that's freedom. And then when you start spending all of your days like that, you want to go to the next step. Well, maybe the next step is like actually laughing because it's funny, not because you're forcing yourself. That's another kind of freedom. And then you just go on like every stages of freedom. And I think that the reason why we're still attracted by therapies or different modalities, it's because now we know there's always the next stage, the next step to freedom. So no matter how good you feel, there's always that next step that you can be even more free. And I think that the ultimately free would be just like not having logic, just having our subconscious like drive us, that would be amazing. Do whatever you want, whenever you want, and that's it. But I feel like, because you said that, like, oh, you guys must think we're always in therapy, and listening to ourselves, I'm thinking, yeah, people must think we're nutcases, but it's not. It's just, today I realize we're always seeking the next step of, I know I can feel better than this. And when you started as a survivor, quite often, even if you don't feel those feelings anymore, you know too well how they feel. So you want to make sure you never go back to those feelings. So, you know, when I asked you who was a perfect candidate, I think ultimately you said it well, it's everyone, but it's also like you don't need to have a huge trauma or a huge event in your life. You don't need to have been abused or beaten. You know, there's little things that can traumatize us. And when we think about it, we're like, but it was so silly. You know, I'm not even going to tell someone that it created that in me because it was so silly. But it's all whatever blocks you to going to your next step. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, definitely well said. So I know that we're getting close to time here, and Alan, I wanted to give you an opportunity to share a little more, because I know that, you know, you and your partner, you do this amazing work. And then one of the things that blew me away is how many books have you participated in? You've done, like, if you want to talk about someone who's trying to help and out there to help people, I mean, some of the books that you've participated in, you know, please share that with us.
Yeah, you know what? To be really honest, I can't tell you how many it is. It's 10 or 11. And to be really honest, and you know what? If Robert's listening to this, he's going to be mad at me. I can't even tell you how many times we were international bestsellers, because those are the big details, and I'm not the big detail kind of person. I'm more of the person to do things. And yeah, we've created our book Awakening Out of the Darkness into the Light is in depth about the feelings of terror, anxiety, what I really went through. And then, you know what, my partner and I actually created Awakened: The Magic Within, Triumph Over Trauma, Volume 1, where we gathered 13 other people that have had some sort of trauma, and they overcame it, and they all shared their trauma, and they all shared the way they overcame things and who they are today. And I believe the majority of, yeah, I believe all 13 are out helping people as well. And you know what? The other books where we wrote with Robert, they're all about helping somebody, whether it's business or changing. And it's like Caroline said, for NLP, you don't have to have this big, massive trauma. What if I told you I could release a limiting belief in 20 minutes? What if I told you I could help you quit smoking in less than 30 minutes, or change something you eat too much of because you love it, and you'll never eat again? I work in Parry Sound. There's this butter tart place. I love them. I was eating a butter tart a day. I'm serious, a butter tart a day. Nobody thinks it's a big deal until you gain 20 pounds. And then I did this technique, 15 minutes. I have not eaten a butter tart in 5 years. Like, this is how NLP can help in all sorts of different life modalities. And yeah, it's.
But do you miss it?
Do I miss butter tarts? No.
No, it's
No,
out of your system. So like you could do that to me with popcorn.
Oh, you know what? When I do this with people, I did it with a young lady. She drank Mountain Dew. She drank 7 Mountain Dew a day, and she said, I don't want to drink Mountain Dew anymore. So we did the process with her, and it's all about changing the position of the pitcher, because we think in pitchers, change the position of the pitcher. And when we bring a can of Mountain Dew in, you can see that she looks at the can of Mountain Dew and she's disgusted, and she tells you, get it out, get it out. And when I look at a butter tart, I don't look at a butter tart anymore thinking, oh, those were the greatest things in the world. I look at a butter tart thinking, yeah, nothing. And that's the way it is. Yeah, I'm serious. It's that simple. It's yeah, it's amazing what can be done with the tools of NLP.
It's a funny question I was asking you, but I find it, you know, we took a simple example, but it can help you with any kind of, you know, addiction and everything, because, you know, like butter tarts for me are nothing because I don't like them, but for someone who likes them, that's a whole different game. You know, it's like, so my question was, and I love your answer, and that's what I wanted to hear, because, you know, we don't want to stop something and feel miserable for it. You know,
Okay.
sometimes like people do a diet and they cut sugar, and they will talk to you about it every single day. And every single time you look at them, they're like, yeah, I'm not taking sugar anymore. And you're like, well, maybe you should, you know, maybe you would, because there's also mental health in there. So it's cool to stop things without, you know, craving them. But how can people reach you? First of all, can people do that via Zoom, or you only do sessions in person?
We did a lot of sessions in person, but we had a lot of people from the States and Australia and the UK, and we learned Zoom works. Zoom is perfect. We've done it on the phone with people because they did not have Zoom, but the best results for us is when I can actually see your body language and I can see what you're going through and what emotion you have, and your skin color and everything tells me if things are working. Zoom is one of the best tools, especially with this time going on right now. And, you know, it worked out really good. But Zoom, yeah, Zoom is it works perfect. And if somebody really wants to connect with us, the email tmwbookseries@gmail.com is a good place. They can connect with us on Facebook. Just private message me. And you know what? I give people my phone number all the time, 705-698-2437, if they want to call, because a lot of times people don't like the electronic they like more of a personal touch. And that's, you know what, when we created the company, we wanted to be client centered, and it's all about our clients for us. So we don't keep 8 to 4 times. We're very flexible, and we make sure that we're there when we're needed. And yeah, so for us, it's all about helping people, and we love it.
Awesome. Well, what a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you for demystifying, right? NLP, because you see it, it's 3 letters. And here's where the adult brain kicks in that Caroline was talking about earlier. As an adult, you don't want to ask. You don't want to look stupid. I do NLP. Oh, awesome. That's great. That's amazing. And because you've heard of it, you don't really maybe want to ask. And so thank you for demystifying it and also making it simple for people that want to work on things that are, well, what some people would consider, you know, non-essential, but it is essential. And then for people that really need relief from long-term issues as well. So, I mean, I'm sure me and Caroline will be seeing you very soon. Maybe we'll do a couple session, a business session.
No, like, I need to talk about you. You're part of my trauma. Oh, my parents' trauma. So.
Trauma. Anyways, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to, Caroline, would you like to close the show today?
No, I just want to say a huge thank you to Alan, and not to add to my trauma, I will let Deb close the show because she loves to have the last word. So maybe that's one thing you guys can work on.
Oh, and so that's called throwing the pot. And so when, you know, when I'm in my session and I'm like, she throws the pot at me all the time. That's what I'm talking about. So thank goodness for fun, laughter, and thick skin. Anyways, if you are a listener, we want to just send our greatest gratitude and appreciation for you tapping into our channel, sharing the information. We do this platform to help entrepreneurs and lifepreneurs be able to have a voice, to be able to share, because we believe that you guys out there need to hear what these people have to say. Great value, I'm sure, that you heard from Alan today. As well as if you think that you'd like to be on the show, we'd love to hear from you. And just send us an email to debandcaroline@gmail.com. Go on to the network and share our podcasts. And if you'd like to be a part of our book series, please reach out. If you'd like to be part of an anthology, we'd love to have a conversation with you. So with that, I will thank you for coming on to the show and the show. Again, thank you, Alan. And of course, Caroline, as always, thank you. Looking forward to another interview.